Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most profoundly emotional and, honestly, beautifully paradoxical works in all of music history. We're talking about J.S. Bach's Toccata and Fugue in F major, BWV 540. Now, if you typically picture Bach as this serene, calculating mathematician of sound, well, get ready to have that image totally shattered. This piece is a mirror held right up to the human soul. It captures this extreme, radiant joy and then places it right next to unimaginable, tortured darkness. Let's peel back the layers and see what's really hiding inside these notes.
Section 1. Le mystère du contraste, the mystery of contrast, light and darkness.
So, this brings us to the ultimate question we really need to ask ourselves today. Why in the world would Bach follow a movement of pure, ecstatic, almost physical joy with one of such tortured, cerebral darkness? It's a totally jarring shift, right? You're flying incredibly high and then, bam, suddenly you were plunged straight into an abyss. To understand why he did this, we actually have to look at the underlying anatomy of these two distinct movements.
The dichotomy between the two is just stark. First up, we have the toccata. This movement is all about physical joy, spatial ecstasy, and this massive driving vital impulse. It was literally designed to vibrate the architecture of the church and fill the whole space with radiant energy. But then, the fugue completely shifts the ground right out from under our feet. It's characterized by harsh rigor, cerebral asceticism, and a really heavy interiority. It's like the body is suddenly told to just be quiet, and the intellect is forced into this incredibly demanding, dry laboratory of sound.
Section 2. L'élan vital, the vital impulse, or the power to act.
To really wrap our heads around what Bach is doing here, it helps to borrow a concept from the philosopher Spinoza called conatus. Conatus is basically the effort by which each thing strives to persevere in its own being. It's an active affirmation of our power to act. Think of it as the fundamental, innate drive of all living things to just keep existing and asserting their presence in the world. In the toccata, Bach translates this vital, driving effort perfectly into music. We're not just talking about a happy tune here. This is the pure, gravitational force of life insisting on its own existence against the void.
The toccata is essentially an uninterrupted flow of notes, driven by absolute geometric necessity. Just think about those monumental pedal solos for a second. The organist is practically running with their feet. Playing a pipe organ at this level isn't just some delicate finger exercise. It is an intensely demanding athletic feat. We're talking a full-body workout that requires massive physical exertion. And it's not just decorative showboating either. It's the physical body anchoring itself into the earth. It's a mathematically rigorous affirmation of life and power that simply refuses to stop. It really is the ultimate triumph of the will.
Moving on to Section 3, La descente dans l'ombre, the descent into the shadow, and the contrapuntal laboratory.
Now, with the fugue, we experience the sudden eruption of the shadow. If you know a bit of Jungian psychology, the shadow represents what is repressed, dense, and heavy in us. The parts of ourselves that demand to be integrated, even if we'd honestly much rather look away. The fugue trades those joyful flowing melodies for a slow, chromatic, and frankly painful theme. It doesn't want to seduce your ears at all. Instead, it demands immense intellectual effort, basically forcing an encounter with the dark, hidden face of the human experience. If we want to decode this suffocating darkness, we can look at it through the lens of Julia Kristeva's paragrammatic analysis. This is a method all about spotting a secret structure, a hidden text beneath the text, which is created by repeating and dispersing little fragments. And in the fugue, Bach is doing exactly this, just with sound. He's actively scattering a hidden text of dissonance and tension all throughout the interlocking voices of the music. By burying these intense mathematical puzzles and delayed resolutions so deep in the counterpoint, he creates a deeply conflicted atmosphere. It's essentially a musical puzzle of anxiety that speaks directly to our unconscious. So you might be wondering, why do this? Why ruin the ecstatic high of that incredible toccata? Well, it comes down to an obsessive need to temper that joy. From a musical perspective, Bach needed to balance the architecture of the piece so the bright half wouldn't risk becoming superficial or ungrounded. Psychologically speaking, true unity of the self is completely impossible without integrating that shadow and acknowledging our inner depths. And from a Spinoza's perspective, this just reflects the true dialectic of life. It's not only about the joy of moving forward, but also the heroic, absolutely necessary resistance against sadness and collapse. Section 4. Le poids du deuil, the weight of grief, and the tragedy of 1713. Here is where things take a truly heartbreaking turn. Musicologists trace the composition of this specific piece to the exact time Bach experienced a horrific personal trauma. On February 23, 1713, his wife gave birth to twins, but that very same day, the baby boy, Johann Christoph, died. And then, less than a month later, on March 15th, his twin sister, Maria Sophia, also passed away. Bach was writing this monumental, life-affirming toccata and this suffocating, tortured fugue right as his family and his entire world were falling apart.
When you know that tragic context, the rigorous, arid nature of the fugue takes on a completely new, profound meaning. This is musical geometry acting as a psychological dam against chaos. All those restrictive rules, the dissonance, the immense mental effort required to play it, it wasn't just some cerebral exercise. It was a grieving father using the absolute strictness of counterpoint to literally hold back the absolute chaos of his own despair. When the physical joy of the world is stripped away from you, sometimes the only thing left to hold on to is structure. Finally, Section 5, Le Cadeau et la Malédiction, the gift and the curse, and the legacy of the mystery. There's a really striking quote from a musician reflecting on this piece, who said, "Encountering Bach will have been both a gift and a curse." And it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Engaging with Bach's rigorous truth is a profound gift because it offers ultimate beauty and a literal map to the metaphysical. But it's a curse because it sets an impossible standard. Once you experience this level of musical honesty, where neither the joy nor the pain is faked, but rather confronted head-on, everything else can start to feel just a little bit superficial. Because of this, learning the piece becomes a sort of initiation for musicians. First, you approach the music out of pure curiosity, drawn in by the grandness of the toccata. But then, you inevitably hit a wall of resistance. The fugue just feels too intellectual, too dry, and way too emotionally demanding to play. However, if you can push through that friction, a complete inner transformation happens. You stop just playing notes on a page, and you become a dedicated disciple of Bach's metaphysical questioning, aligning yourself with the necessary truth of the music itself. And yet, despite creating this immense, intimidating structure, Bach remained incredibly humble about the whole thing. He viewed himself simply as musicus et cantor, a mere servant of art. He wasn't some ego-driven master claiming to have all the answers to the universe's pain and joy. Not at all. He considered himself a mere transmitter of the structural order of the world. He remained deeply dubitative, constantly searching, and letting the music act upon him just as much as he acted upon it. Which leaves us with this final, truly profound thought. Bach didn't leave us a neat, tidy resolution at the end of BWV 540. He left the tension suspended. So the question is, can we accept that life's greatest mysteries, the blinding light and the suffocating dark, are not puzzles meant to be solved, but realities meant to be inhabited? Bach gives us the courage to stand right in the middle of that unresolved mystery and just listen. Think about that the next time you face a contradiction in your own life that you simply can't resolve.